welcome to another episode of the Obstacle Race Magazine podcast. Thank you for joining us once again to listen to us waffle on. And also a huge thank you to Epic Action Imagery for sponsoring the first 3 of our 10-minute Tuesdays that we've had this year since launching the podcast. It's been amazing to have the support. So go and check out the website, and if you're after a quality event photographer, then look no further than Epic Action Imagery. Right, so let's get on with the podcast. Right, welcome everybody to what is the 4th episode of the Obstacle Race Magazine podcast. I've got Kevin here with me again today.
Hello, Mr. Wibberley.
Hello, Kevin Newey. Right, so this week, let's do a little news roundup. So we have Spartan have apparently got a big announcement coming up on the 29th of January. So far, we've seen that Kyle has been the ex-CEO of Tough Mudder, has been working with Joe from Spartan, Joe DeSena. I think that's probably what the announcement's going to be about, that they're a little bit further down the line with their Spartan news. Any thoughts on that, Kev?
It could be that, or it could be that they're ditching medals this year. No more T-shirts. Or does that do a bit too much, too extreme? No, it's got to be something to do with the Tough Mudder. So, watch this space. But I think it's going to be good news. Keep the 2 brands going.
Yeah, I think Spartan are definitely no more than what they're letting on. And they're going to be the ones to swoop in, and they're just kind of keeping it rolling a little bit longer while it's keeping up interest in both brands. Yeah,
there'll be all legals and things that we're going through at the moment, so that's why they've pushed it forward another couple of weeks so they can make the announcements officially, I think.
Yeah. Hopefully it's good news, because obviously it'd be a huge loss to the industry if we did lose Tough Mudder, and no one wants that to happen. It's got lots of supporters, so we really don't want to go down that road. So yeah, hopefully they'll step in. We've also got this week, Nuclear Racers have announced that they will be putting on a 24-hour endurance event. That looks quite exciting. It's on the 20th over to the 21st of June, from 12 noon till 12 noon. And it's 7 kilometres laps. It's a good course as well, Nuclear, so it should be quite exciting there. Quite a good place to actually have an endurance event, and they've got a good setup there as well, so it should be easy for them to have everything they need in terms of logistics and things there as well. So are we putting a team in, Kevin? What do you think?
Got to. I think they've done some endurance events before at Nuclear, and they've always gone down really well. It's sort of course that you can keep lapping if you're not getting weighed down with too much mud, because it is such a boggy course. But it's the number 1 really in the UK now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they're definitely in terms of being established and what have you. They're definitely there and they're on point. They've also made a point of putting in that the water depths will not exceed 4 to 5 foot. So I'm assuming that's for safety. So does that then rule out the death slide? Because I'm pretty sure I can't put my feet down on death slide at the bottom. So I think that probably means that they'll take that out.
There's no way they can lose a death slide, surely.
I'm not sure, because I'm sure when I've come off the end of that in the past, I've not been able to touch the bottom. It's definitely been a swim, so maybe not. That's if I'm reading it correctly.
Unless they can lower it. Oh yeah, I was saying, unless they can lower the slide down, but it doesn't make a difference to the.
No, not to the water, I'm afraid, Kev. Nice thought though, but no, unfortunately, that won't make a blind bit of difference. But individuals are £160, which, to be fair, for 24 hours worth of experience, when people are quite happy to pay £100 for something that only lasts a few hours, is a pretty good price. And a team of 2 to 4 is £250. So between 4 of you, that's a bit of a bargain, really.
60 quid each, something like that.
Yeah. It's not a very big investment. Minimum age of 16 plus, so it's quite cool. So yeah, a nice new endurance event to add to the UK calendar, which is quite cool to mix it up a little bit. We've also, so for a bit of an ORM announcement, we have got our first community event in quite a while, ORM community event, for us to get together, have a bit of a play around and things, and that will be on the 12th of April. Do you want to tell them a little bit more about that, Kevin?
Yeah, it's at the Gravity Academy in Coventry, who specialised in sort of calisthenics, and it's going to be a fitness workshop as well. So spaces are going to be limited to 25. It's a 1.5 hour session costing just £12, and we'll have the booking details on the Facebook page over the next few days. They've set the age at 14 plus, but if there are kids, we've seen like with the OCR, boys and girls who are younger than that and who are capable, they're happy for those to come along too. So all the details will be on the page soon, but I've visited the guys yesterday, and it's a superb little training centre, a little hidden gem. I mean, I live in Coventry, and I'd not heard of the place until they did some sponsored ads, really. It's a bit of a mix between a CrossFit box, and they've got rigs there, and it's going to be a great day.
Cool.
And only £12.
Yeah, well, yeah, bargain price for 90 minutes. Getting to spend 90 minutes with us too. What more could you ask for? It's perfect. And a bit of food afterwards as well, actually. We've been looking at logistics-wise. We could also go out for a bit of a team meal and what have you afterwards. So that's kind of rounds up this week's news. There's not too much going on. It's still quite early on in season. Things are different, bits and pieces are getting announced. So what we will go into is, as promised, I've got Kevin a few questions.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'll have to cue a little bit of mastermind music at this stage.
What's my specialist subject?
That's exactly. What is your specialist subject, Kevin Newey?
Pies?
Yeah, vegan pies, speciality. Very niche area. So, Kevin, what would you say is your favourite race you've done so far?
Oh.
So you're going to make a few enemies here.
Well, a lot of the races have come and gone, and I don't want to just copy what you said last week when I think one of the questions asked was, which race do you most miss? And you said the Reaper Night race. But I think that is the favourite one that I've actually done, because it's just so different. Held at the Heart of England Conference Centre, where we have Mud 7, so I know the site pretty well. But in the pitch black, I just did not have a clue where I was on that site at all. And it's the first and only time I've run with a head torch. So I didn't realise how much your eyes sort of get used to the light from the head torch. It was irritating my head, so I just took it off for a couple of seconds, and suddenly everything was black. I just couldn't see anything. There was no light coming through at all. And when you get to an obstacle and you see a marshal there, you're just happy to see somebody. So I think that's one of them. And then the others would be, I think, the usuals. Nuclear. I really enjoyed Rock Solid. I did that sort of 3 or 4 times. Shame that one's gone, because they had some great innovative obstacles. But I'm going to stick with Reaper Night Race. Final answer.
Awesome. Right, so for 10 points. What would you say? So you're still you kind of got thrown into the world of OCR when you came on board with the magazine. And most people don't know this. You came from what was a fish and chip industry sort of led magazine and got thrown in to probably the complete opposite end of the spectrum with an OCR magazine. So all of a sudden you went from everything about chips and fish to everything about mud, water, and running round half naked. So, going off that, what would your main piece of advice be for anyone who is starting out in OCR? So, from your experience, what would you say would be your biggest learning curves in terms of what would be a great piece of advice to pass on to someone?
But this advice could be used by anybody who's sort of doing their first event. We have loads of them doing Mud 7, or the charity runners. A lot of them are really fretting about doing obstacle racing because it's quite a big deal for a lot of people. But things that I've sort of took away from my first OCR was, I think that footwear was a big one. I ran it in Nike Air Max Spartan Sprint in, I think it was called Spartan Sprint Cambridge. It was actually in Essex, just in, I think it was in Saffron Walden. And also just to do a bit of training, I really struggled on the upper body stuff. Played like six-side football and I did a little bit of running, but the upper body stuff I really struggled with, especially with Spartan because it's so upper body heavy. So I think say just to people just to do a few press ups and sit ups and a little bit of lifting the kids and anything just to build your arms up a little bit, just to get used to carrying a bit of weight.
Yeah, sounds like sound advice. So you'd say definitely pick Nike Air Max over Converse trainers then, would you?
I think so, yeah, just because they've got the extra bounce in their sole. So yeah,
Sounds
the first thing I did after that was invested in a pair of trail shoes, and I'd recommend anybody, you can get a cheap pair for sort of 35, 40 quid. If you go to My Sports and More, somewhere like that, and you can pick up some decent bargains.
Some people who've been around racing a long time still swear by more miles. They absolutely love them. Just comfort and fit just suit people. If they suit you, they suit you. There's only a certain amount of grip any shoe's ever going to give you in the mud, and having that little bit extra, after a certain point, it really doesn't matter how much you spend on them. It makes no real difference. But that's quite cool. I like that.
But you see a lot of races like there's deep muddy bogs, and at Hart Park where we have Mud 7, it's very clay-like. So some of the ditches they have to go out of, they're scrambling up them, and you see with the people who've got trail shoes on, just walking up it as if it's steps, and the others having to get dragged out. So it does make a big difference. And that's why we get boxes and boxes of trainers left dumped in the car park after the event, which we have to try and find a home for.
Yeah, it is a shame to see them sometimes as well. That is definitely a downside to OCR sometimes. So going off, since it's the new year, we're still quite early on in the year, should I say, and we're looking at goals and things like that. So we'll get onto goals in a second, but what race that you've seen pop up, whether it be new, old, quite well established, is there a race that's on your radar that you'd absolutely love to do?
I think for the bling, I'd love to do a rocket race. We've had a magazine stand there a few years ago, but the medals and the T-shirts are just superb, and the event seems to be getting bigger and better. David and Kerry are invested a lot more sort of money and time into the event now as well. I think David's actually going full time with events this year, so I think rocket is one that I haven't done before, is one that I'd like to do.
Yeah, sounds like a sound choice, and I agree with you there. T-shirts and medals, they really, really do put as much effort into those as they do in building the course, because David's out there, rain or shine, putting new obstacles together with little twists to them to actually challenge people. So yeah, that's a good one, that one. So to sort of link to that as well, do you have any goals set already for 2020? Is there anything that you'd like to share with us that you do want to do in 2020?
I think I just want to get out and get on the course again. I've not done many events over the last couple of years due to sort of injuries and other things going on. But I need to get a base level of fitness going again. So I went out beating the pavements yesterday, and I've just got to increase my distances in training. I'd love to get back and do a couple of Spartans this year. I've only actually ever done one trifecta, which I think was in 2015, 2016. I think that's probably a bit too far for me this year, but definitely want to just get back out there and do anything just to try and get fit again.
Yeah, I think you can miss it after a while. Like, I've not got a trifecta in the last few years. So from launching, I made sure I got my trifecta those first 3 years, and then after that, I dipped in a little bit and out, and then last year, I don't think I ended up doing a Spartan at all last year, maybe even the year before, because there were just other things that were propping up. So that's definitely one that's on my list for this year as well as what we've already started with in terms of the community events. We want to do a lot more of those this year because I really do miss those. So that'll be good to get out with everyone as well. And I also want to add in a few adventures this year. I'd like to climb Snowdon, but not up the normal trail. I'd like to sort of take a lesser known route to get to the top, make it a little bit more challenging. race outside the UK. I'd really like to do that. And I've actually planned it. I was looking like yesterday that if I wanted to go and climb Snowdon, I could drive from here, from the Midlands to Snowdon, do Snowdon, drive to Holyhead, drive from Holyhead to Dublin, and then
That's water from Holyhead to Dublin.
yeah, well, I'll drive, but on a boat,
All right.
and then from Dublin to I think it's Hellenbach that's over there, and that's only sort of 30 minutes away from the actual port, so it'd be a perfect one to go to there. So I think that is one I'm going to try and do this year, just to get me outside of this little English border and prison I seem to have made for myself.
Well, plus there's Tough Mudders and Spartans over in Ireland as well.
Yeah.
It's just, I think he's doing it for the first time. Like, I'd love to go to the lakes, just like see some of the sights there. And my IT manager at work, he's a trail runner, and he's an ultra runner, so he does sort of 40, 50-mile runs for fun. But when I see some of his pictures, and I think that's just amazing, but I wouldn't know where to start. Like, I think once you've done it once and you know what you're doing, and it's the same with racing abroad. A few years ago, people were going over doing toughest and going to the toughest lab, and you think, like, how would you start? Just the logistics of it, like the flying over there, then getting to it. I think once you've done it once, it's easy, but it's just doing it that first time.
Yeah. I think is it Roots Adventure? They do a few bits and pieces up in the lakes, and they may even come down to the Peak District as well. And they do everything and they're all about trying to get those skills that a lot of people don't have anymore. And that might be a perfect way to actually get back up into the lakes, because then you're doing it as a group as well. I think I don't know if they've got one in the lakes this year, but they've definitely got one in Perth in Scotland. There's one in Wales, and there's definitely one in the Peak District, but I'm not sure of the other ones. But they'll take you through map reading, all different sorts of navigation, nighttime and daytime navigation, and just other survival techniques and things. So that's a perfect way to do that, Kevin. That might be a good idea, to go and try one of those events, just to
something a bit different.
Yeah, break outside the norm a little bit. But yeah, I think that's quite cool. So I think that's it for questions for you. That's it for question time this week, Kevin. Have you had any adventures this week, apart from your little jog out?
No, just a little jog. Been sorting out the training day for the Ultra Grace magazine community, and also the fifth zone at Mud 7 we announced on Friday as well. So Rough Events, they're another new event to Mud 7, not been with us before. They're based around the Grantham, so Lincolnshire way. They've got an event weekend on the 18th and 19th of April, and again, a bit like Nuclear, they've got a zip wire, water slides, and they do a 5, 10 and a 1.5 kilometre Rascals run, which is suitable for ages 4+. So excited to have them at Mud 7 for the first time. I love getting the new races there that I haven't been before, because it just makes the event even more different for the people that have done it more than once.
Yeah, it gets word out a little bit as well, because that's kind of one of the ethoses behind Mud 7, is that it does, although we have had well-established brands there as well, to give that experience to the racers, it's also good to have the newer ones along, because it just gets the word out, because it sort of passes along the community that we've built and the audience that we've built. It passes that on to them, because it is really, really difficult, especially if you look back to, say, 2012. It was you could put one social media post together and boost it, and that'd be it. You'd have every runner you'd want just with one muddy picture. But it's just not like that anymore. It's really hard to get word out, and there's so many races within the calendar. It's difficult to sort of get seen in that crowd, and yeah, so it's cool. So is that the fifth zone then you've announced now, Kev?
Yeah, fifth one. So they join in Hero Challenge, Rocket Race, Zeus Races, and Pucker Races. So Pucker and Rough Events are the two new ones. But yeah, if you look back at all the Mud 7s, there's a bit of a graveyard of OCRs out there. Some that have come and gone. We've got like Reaper, Rock Solid, Suffering, like some big events who are no more. We had the Bear Grylls Survival Race there in the first year. I think they lasted for 2 years, 3 years maybe at max. Airfield Anarchy. Everybody loved their race weekend. So it's sad that those ones have gone. So Mud 7's a great platform for these other new events that are coming through to sort of put 2,500 people through their course and see what OCR is all about.
Yeah, definitely gives them a little bit of a taste. So yeah, I think so. At the moment, we're obviously gearing up for our first issue of the year, which will be the first one of people's 2020 subscriptions. It won't be too long. In the next few weeks, that'll be out. That's the spring edition, which is issue 35. So if you still haven't got your 2020 subscription yet, don't forget to grab that. Just as a bit of a reminder, because it won't be long before the first issue's out. The race, we've got normal subscriptions. We've got them right from being free right through to race ticket inclusive subscriptions that can save you a hell of a lot of money on your adventures and what have you for 2020. We've also got some really top shelf guests lined up over the coming weeks. So look out for those, because so far we've only done the 10-minute Tuesdays, which are aka 20-minute Tuesdays, because we never managed to keep it to 10 minutes, and the little news roundup so far. But we have some guest episodes coming up soon, so look out for those. Make sure you click the subscribe button to see those, to be the first to see those, should I say. And yeah, it's and something new is starting up as well, Kevin. We are starting listener mail.
You've got mail.
So if you've got anything you want to share with the audience, or you just want to make a comment on the lack of Kevin's hair follicles or anything like that, just send in your mail to carl@obstacleracemagazine.com, and we will address those within the next few podcasts as we go along. Anything else from you, Kevin?
Yeah. So just going on from the guests that we've got lined up, we've sort of purposefully had the first few podcasts with just me and Carl, just to let people know a bit more about the people behind the magazine. So we are quite a small team, but quite passionate about the industry. So this was just a bit of a scene setter for those who don't know us. And there's going to be a lot more content coming over the coming months and years.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Thank you very much, Kevin, for joining me once again. It's been lovely.
10-minute Tuesday.
10-minute Tuesday. That's it. We're not doing too bad. We're actually only at 20 or so minutes. So 20-minute Tuesday.
Better than last week.
We're going to have to just basically succumb to it and change the name, I think, aren't we?
Or we could stick to 10 and
just laugh every time we say it.
Yeah.
Right, Kevin. It's been great, and I'll speak to you soon.
See you next week.
Cheers, buddy. Bye.
Bye.
Right, if you've made it this far, you are obviously the sort of person who hangs around in the cinema, waiting for the credits, hoping and praying for a juicy extra bit. Well, here's your reward for hanging around right to the bitter end. If you listen out to this week's podcast, you'll have heard Leo, Kevin's dog, bark at some stage. Now, what we need you to do is send the answer of how many minutes and how many seconds it was into the podcast that Leo made his appearance, and PM that to our Obstacle Race Magazine Facebook page. And what we'll do is we'll put all the names that PM us into a hat, and we will announce the winner of a very unique and special prize in next week's podcast. So don't forget, PM us over the minutes and seconds that Leo makes his special appearance in this week's episode. And good luck, and thank you for listening right to the very end.